So we continue to follow Sri Aurobindo through his pseudonym Ashwapati into all the things that are beyond the mind he is experiencing. And so the first line we see, ever his consciousness and vision grew. Interesting, Sri Aurobindo puts consciousness with vision, because with vision and consciousness, one opens up into another world, a world of beauty and joy that we don't yet have fully realized in this incarnation of ours. So after the semicolon, they took an ampler sweep, a loftier flight. He passed the border marked for matter's rule, and passed the zone where thought replaces life. See, he uses the word past twice in 2 lines, because it's so important to know how he is moving. And then after that full stop, he says, out of this world of signs, suddenly he came into a silent self, where world was not, and looked beyond into a nameless vast. These symbol figures lost their right to live. All tokens dropped, our sense can recognize. And then there's a semicolon, but I'll go back for these lines, because in this silent self, where there is no world, he has already reached the transcendent, the highest point. Now, he hasn't realized it all. He's just looked beyond. He's come into it, and he will fully realize it in Book 1, Canto 5. So this is just Book 1, Canto 3. We have a ways to go yet. So he looks into this nameless vast, and these symbol figures lost their right to live. Our understanding of good and bad, our understanding of hot and cold, all of these things are simply symbol figures that he is now passing. They even dropped these tokens of things, these tokens of male and female, these tokens of life and death. They are no longer accepted or recognized by him. There the heart beat no more at body's touch. And we have heard so many times of great yogis who can stop the heart. And they can stop it for sometimes a minute, 2, 3 minutes, and go right back to consciousness again. There the eyes gazed no more on beauty's shape. And that's a powerful line, because it's not beauty's perfection, it's just beauty's shape he's talking about. and he's beyond all of that. In rare and lucent intervals of hush, into a signless region he could soar, packed with the deep contents of formlessness, where world was into a single being wrapped, and all was known by the light of identity, and spirit was its own self-evidence. In these rare and lucent, very clear intervals of hush, he could soar into this signless region, and that region is packed with the deep contents of formlessness. And we know that formlessness exists in the transcendent spheres, even above the supermental. So he is able to go there. He could soar there. He's rising so quickly, he could soar there. And that place is a world where everything is wrapped into a single being, and everything is also known by the light of identity. And of course, this is something that Mother had from a child, but when we knew her, she could see what we call tricolor drishti. She could see the previous existences we've had. She could see the present, and she could see the potentiality of the future. Now the future is not settled as yet, but she could see where this soul might be going. And so this light of identity and the spirit, of course, was its own self-evidence. It didn't need any markers, any forms, anything else to know that it was divine. Because now he says very, very important lines. The Supreme's gaze looked out through human eyes and saw all things and creatures as itself, and knew all thought and word as its own voice. Now I have to get to the next page. Oh, I went the wrong way. Begins with the voice. Does it?
Saw all things.
And
all things as its own.
saw the hours.
You look out through the God eyes.
Somehow I messed up here. 38, page 32.
32.
That's where I am, but it's not coming. Let's see. I might have gone 2 pages ahead.
It's 378, so you go back.
I'll go back, yeah, that's what I thought. So we'll go back here. And maybe it's still in. I think it's there. Is that? Oh,
In the title,
no,
this is 31. Oh, maybe.
say where? Hmm?
Yeah, this
We passed that already.
This is
Yeah, did we get to this yet? The estrus?
No.
Ah, okay, so maybe I can.
Unity, their unity.
There,
Unity is the next line.
their unity. Got it. Sorry, folks. Their unity is too close for search and clasp. And love is a yearning of the one for the one. And beauty is a sweet difference of the same. And notice he capitalizes the S. A sweet difference of the same. And oneness is the soul of multitude. So Sri Aurobindo tells us when we reach these higher planes of existence, of which I've spoken so many times, but especially in the supramental, sometimes in the overmental also, the divine in this great game is descending, and as he descends, he limits his being. There's nothing lost, it's just a limitation. And so then in that limitation, he is the one in all, but he is also the all in one. And so here, oneness is the soul of multitude. There, all the truths unite in a single truth, and all ideas rejoin reality. Now, he's going to take us a little further. There, knowing herself by her own termless self, wisdom supernal, wordless, absolute, all-seeing, motionless. Did I miss sat uncompanioned? Okay. Wisdom supernal, wordless, absolute, sat uncompanioned in the eternal calm, all-seeing, motionless, sovereign, and alone. Uncompanioned is without any other person, without any other being. And so wisdom knows herself by her own termless self. Termless, of course, means eternal. It means without any limit. So she knows herself by her own termless self. She's supernal, and supernal for us is often understood as heavenly. You could even say it's a synonym of heavenly. Wisdom, supernal, wordless, absolute, sat uncompanioned in the eternal calm, all-seeing, motionless, sovereign, and alone. And then he will continue. There, knowledge needs not words to embody idea. And this word embody, it usually refers to investing in a spiritual body or with a bodily form. But I prefer the second definition, to give a tangible, concrete form to. And I think that's best. Their knowledge needs not words to embody idea. Now, idea is capitalized here, and that means we have to look into it a little deeper. Real idea, when it's hyphenated, real hyphen idea, is a synonym for the supermind. Just as gnosis, Sri Aurobindo often uses as a synonym for the supermental. So here, idea from Sri Aurobindo. In this little book that he wrote, I think it was the last thing he wrote, The Supermental Manifestation, he writes, "The idea is the realization of a truth in consciousness, as the fact is its realization in power." And then again from the same supermental manifestation. The idea, and he capitalizes the word, is not a reflection of the eternal external fact, which it so much exceeds. Rather, the fact is only a partial reflection of the idea which has created it. Wow. So now I'll talk to you a little bit, well, I'll read to you from Life Divine. That's the best idea because he speaks of real idea here. The view I am presenting goes farther in idealism. It sees the creative idea as real idea, hyphenated. That is to say, power of conscious force, expressive of real being, born out of real being and partaking of its nature, and neither a child of the void nor a weaver of fictions. It is conscious reality, throwing itself into mutable forms of its own imperishable and immutable substance. And then this final line. The world is therefore not a figment of conception in the universal mind, but a conscious birth of that which is beyond mind into forms of itself. And that's what we are. Many, during this long aesthetic period in India, denied that. They saw the horrors of man, the falsehood of man, and they said either one thing, this is an illusion, or this is something to escape from. And so they went into nirvana. And as Buddha did also, as many of the ascetics did, they rejected this world. And Sri Aurobindo has come to tell us this world is also divine, and we in it are also divine. And therefore, we have to make a life divine here on earth. And I would say in an image perhaps a little bit wider than just those very great disciples of the integral yoga, Aurobindo is that extension. And Aurobindo must become a paradigm for the future of the world, and a true paradigm which other countries can emulate. So we'll continue. Weary of its homeless immortality, asks not in thought's carved brilliant cell to rest, whose single windows clipped outlook on things, sees only a little arc of God's vast sky. I can say that for myself. We are often resting in thought's carved, brilliant self. We get these wonderful ideas, we get poetry, we get music, but it's still a single window that has a clipped outlook on things. We talk about being multitasked, but how much is that? It's so small. This vision that Sri Aurobindo had. You know, I read recently how he worked behind the lines in World War II. And when a disciple asked him, "What about Savitri?" he said, "I have no time for it." Because he was so occupied. He said, if the Nazis had won, it would set the evolution back thousands of years. And of course, you know the story of Mother's work also to conquer the Asura. While there, the boundless with the boundless there consorts. Consorts here is keeping company with. While there, one can be wider than the world. While there, one is one's own infinity. And now back to Ashwapati. His center was no more in earthly mind. A power of seeing silence filled his limbs. A seeing silence. I remember Mother looking at me, just one look, and it changed everything. Now we slip back, of course. We slip back for years and years because we have so many lives previous in which we have to work out all the problems of those lives, the karma of those lives. But still, when you went before Mother, that great, vast smile and that look from her eyes that touched your soul. But don't think that you've lost her, you who haven't seen her. She's much more active now. And when I pray to her, things get resolved that it would take me many lives of tapasya to resolve. A power of seeing silence filled his limbs. Caught by a voiceless white epiphany. Now, epiphany is very often used in many different ways, but it's just a manifestation. But it's often a manifestation of a deity. In the soul, the strength that only in action feels its truth was lodged now in a mute, omnipotent peace. Lodged, of course, means for us fixed, implanted. And omnipotent peace is peace that has unlimited power, absolute. So, Uma, will you read for us?
From the beginning?
Yes, please.
Having his consciousness in beginning. Ever as consciousness and vision grew, they took an ampler sweep, a loftier flight. He passed the border marked for matter's room and passed the zone where thought replaces life. Out of this world of science, suddenly he came into a silent self where world was not and looked beyond into a nameless vast. These symbol figures lost their right to live. All tokens dropped our sense can recognize. There the heart beat no more at body's touch. There the eyes gazed no more on beauty's shape. In rare and lucent intervals of hush, into a signless region he could soar, packed with the deep contents of formlessness, where world was into a single being wrapped, and all was known by the light of identity, and spirit was its own self-evidence. Eyes and saw all things and creatures as itself, and knew all thought and word as its own voice. Their unity is too close for search, eternal calm, all seeing, motionless, sovereign and alone. Their knowledge needs not words to embody idea seeking a house in boundlessness, weary of its homeless immortality, asks not in thought's carved brilliant self to rest, whose single windows clipped outlook on things sees only a little arc of God's vast sky. The boundless with the boundless their consorts, while there one can be wider than the world, while there one is one's own infinity. His center was into a vision that surpasses forms, into a living that surpasses life. He neared the still consciousness sustaining all. The voice that only by speech can move the mind became a silent knowledge in the soul. The strength that only in action feels its truth was lodged now in a mute, omnipotent peace. A leisure in the labor of the world's
I think that
form.
was the end,
Oh,
Uma. Thank you so much.
thank you.
Any questions? Please ask if you have any questions. Don't be shy.
Epiphany, what did you say it was?
Insight into the reality or essential meaning of something. So someone could say, yesterday I had an epiphany. And what would that mean? Well, maybe he saw a divine being. Maybe he saw God. That's an epiphany. A great awakening.
In the Greek, it means into the light.
Question? No.
is experiencing is Sri Aurobindo's own.
Yes, yes. And we have to realize that Sri Aurobindo, was not always like this. Huh? He was a young man, he was growing up in England, and he was writing romantic poetry, and he was those and that. She spoke to Norman Dowson. All the rest are subsidiary. I'm paraphrasing. Everything else he wrote, essays on the Gita, synthesis of yoga, life divine, Savitri. Namaste.
We chant Om Narad.
Yes, we should chant. A few moments of silence.